Goosebumps and quantum physics. What do they have in common? Well, for one, goosebumps is scientifically called piloerection. And when we get this piloerection or goosebumps, it's usually when we're in a state of awe or wonder. But did you know that when you get goosebumps, your brain's hemispheres are syncing? Creating gray matter, the holy aura, the kundalini, or crystal soil. When you're in sync, you become like an antenna, the perfect receiver for God's biofeedback. This biofeedback comes in the form of light, and this light only comes when you're in sync. This light can penetrate anything, concrete, steel, anything. And so when you have goosebumps, you'll receive downloads from time to time. So why am I saying this? Because I'm here to tell you it's time to practice your goosebumps. Call on them voluntarily. See if you can trigger them. If you can trigger them without music, sound, or imagery, then you're on the right path. This is called voluntarily generated piloerection. Some people call it frisson. Only a few people can do this. It's said 1 in 1,500 people can call under piloerection. So that would mean that only that many amount of people would be able to call under kundalini. I don't mean to be the breaker of bad news, but if you can't get your hairs to stand at will, then I don't think you can control your kundalini. This is the biggest misconception of this new age. But there's nothing to fret, because now you can practice. Now you know what you're looking for. The more this knowledge goes out, the more people will be able to tap in. So I'm depending on you guys to like and share this video, so we can find the others that have perfected it, and so that we can find others that want to perfect it. But for now on, my assignment for you is to go watch some videos about love. Videos that specifically only give you goosebumps. It could be in a form of music as well. So as soon as you start feeling the goosebumps approaching, take a moment and learn that feeling. The goosebumps won't last forever, so be quick, be aware, so that once you learn the feeling, you can hold the feeling. It's almost like muscle memory.
Out of the body when you're dreaming at night. So when you sleep for 7 or 8 hours, you're going to spend 3 hours. This is medical studies now. This is hard no science now. We've known this since the 1950s when we discovered the 4 brainwaves. You spend 3 hours out of the body into the 5th dimension. The question is, where do you go? Most people, because they don't know what they're doing, or because they're arguing with their wife, or they're worrying about problems, or because they had too many drugs, they go to the lower astral plane. That's a very bad neighborhood.
Like hell.
Well, except you can get out of it. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's like purgatory. Okay?
Purgatory, okay.
Whereas if you use the techniques I described in psychic protection techniques and more positive things, you can leave through the crown chakra, not through the 3rd chakra, which will take you to the lower astral. If you go to the crown chakra, which is where you want to go, now you go to the upper astral plane, or the causal, mental, etheric, or even soul plane. Those are all positive dimensions. Okay? The only 2 negative dimensions are the lower astral plane and this one. We have a lot of problems here. But the other dimensions are all positive. And each dimension has a sound and certain characteristics that are relevant to it. For example, if you're out of the body and you hear the roar of the sea, you're on the astral plane. If you hear the tinkling of bells like in a New Age bookstore, now you're on the causal plane where the Akashic records are stored. If you hear the sound of running water, you're on the mental plane. And if you hear the buzzing of bees, you're on the etheric plane. Or if you hear the sound of a flute, you're on the soul plane.
If I were to choose to live my life over again, I wouldn't live it in this way. Do you know Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not personally.
No. The book. The end of that book would bring tears to my eyes for years. Christopher Robin has to go to school, and he's telling his friends, the toy animals, that he won't be able to play with them so much anymore. And what I wasn't aware of when I went to medical school and when I was a physician is how driven I was to justify my existence in the world. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. When you're driven to work too hard, you actually ignore what matters. And what matters is what you were telling me last night about how every summer you take a bunch of weeks away from your podcast and you just spend time enjoying your kids and your wife and your family. I didn't do that. I always felt I had to keep working. And the book ends with the statement, and whatever they do, wherever they go in the enchanted forest, the little boy and his bear will always be playing together. And that phrase would bring tears to my eyes for years. people sacrifice their playfulness, their joyfulness, being driven by unconscious needs to validate your existence. And where does that come from? Again, that comes from childhood trauma. Play is so important, and joy is so important. In that sense, we can always keep playing in the enchanted forest, and that's just essential, I think.